Summer job at a little old lady's house. When I was in high school, some 25 years ago, I never really had typical high school jobs. I worked as a mechanic's apprentice and a lot of construction odd jobs. The summer of my 10th and 11th grade year, I worked as a helper doing flooring. The job site was this older lady's house, and she was there the entire time that we were working there. The guy I was working with would often juggle a couple job sites, so he would get things set up and usually leave me with a long task, such as tearing out the old flooring. Almost immediately, when I was there on my own, she calls me over from the dining room that she thinks she's having a heart attack, which is odd, because she was drinking a beer and smoking too. I asked her if she wanted me to call for help. She said no, but if I could help her to her room and maybe she just needs to lay down. So I helped her to her bedroom and she lays down on the bed. She starts to just hold my hand. I asked her again if there was anyone she wanted me to call. She said no, that just stay with her for a while. She asked to lay on the bed with her. I told her that no, I need to get back to work. She said, I don't care about the work. I need you here with me. After sitting there a while, she started moaning. She turned to me and asked me if I wanted a beer. I told her no, but if there was anything I could get for her. She said she wanted another beer. As I go and get it for her, there was someone at the front door. He walks in and goes to her room. I go and hand her the beer, and he said he is her son. They didn't look like they were related at all. She was white and he was Hispanic. I take my chance and leave the room. Later, she's laughing, and they walk into a living room where she's bent over a pillow, and with her butt up in the air, only wearing panties and a t-shirt, he grabs her private parts and turns to me and asks if I wanted to tickle her. I said no, and I need to get back to work. The next day again, I am left alone, now doing the demo work in the dining room. She calls me over to her bedroom and starts the same thing about how she thinks she's having a heart attack. This time I'm like, is there anyone you want me to call? She then reaches out and starts rubbing my crotch and starts moaning. She says, why don't you take those dirty clothes off and lay down with me? I start to freak out. I tell her that I am only 16 years old. She didn't care. She said she's going to tell my boss what I was doing. She starts getting all weird, like accusing me of looking through her things. Then she switched to being very touchy with me. She started opening up her robe and spreading her legs and moving around like she was having an orgasm. I started to freak out a little bit, and I told her I had to leave because I did not want to get fired. So I walked out again. Then after that, every time she called out to me, I just turned the radio up and acted like I didn't hear her. Later that day, her son arrived again. Now they were both in her room. When I would go throw trash outside, I could see down the hallway and see they were having sex, loudly and with the door open. Shortly after that ended, my boss came back, and the following day, I was on another job site, thankfully. Now looking back, I know that she wasn't a little old lady, but probably in her late 50s, but to me in high school, it seemed like she was really old. House sitting for my boss. Female out of graduate training, and I'm starting a new job. My boss wants me to watch the shop while he and his wife are on vacation. Oh, by the way, might I feed their animals while they're gone and kind of watch the house too? They have a bunny and a couple of little dogs. They have a huge house, professional kitchen, in-house jacuzzi with greenhouse, atrium, the master bedroom with a separate seating areas, entire rooms with storage shelving. It's about 5,000 square feet. Bunny lives in a 5-car garage, dogs in the house. My job is to let the dogs out 2+ times a day to do their business and to feed them. Bunny just needs water and food. It uses newspaper. No problem. Except the house is not close to work, nor where I am staying. It's on a cul-de-sac at the edge of a development. Why did I agree to this? It's a pain to go across town to the house, then to work, to the house, then home again. Just trying to impress the boss, I guess. One day, the bunny decides to hide. I had to hunt all over the garage for it, imagining it had escaped, and dang, I was going to lose my job. Usually the little dogs were waiting for me by the back door. They were more cooperative. Then I would just make a round through the house before locking up. One evening, making the rounds, I noticed one of the French doors to the master bedroom was halfway open. The doors were on a carpet. They wouldn't have swung that way freely. Odd. There was no open windows to allow wind in. Dogs? Too little for such a heavy door. So I quietly inch towards the master bedroom and look inside. There on the couch, with his back towards me, is a sitting figure. Hair is lined and fine, not doing anything at all, just sitting there. As noiselessly and quickly as possible, I nop out of there down the stairs to the kitchen phone by the back door. This is a pre-cell phone. I pick up the receiver and dial 911 and whisper that what I was seeing and maybe I've got an intruder in my house. Dispatcher tells me to continue noping out of the house and to wait down the street. Help is on the way. About 5 cop cars showed up with lights flashing but no sirens. Cops get their game face on and converge on the house. They're in there for a very long time. It is a big house. Finally they come out and one approaches me and says, "Well, we looked through the house and didn't find anyone. But probably what you saw in the master bedroom there is one of those life-size Victorian dolls with the real hair." I felt pretty stupid. And the open door, in addition to me taking care of the animals, boss had a plant dude who would come regularly to help him and water their indoor plants. Would have been nice to know. I would have soiled myself had he and I run into each other while inside doors. Pizza Man. So luckily this story doesn't involve me being chased, almost kidnapped, stalked, etc. But it is one of the strangest things that's ever happened to me. I think about whatever happened from time to time, and sometimes I feel as though maybe I was overreacting. But then I remember how I felt like my stomach was in my throat, and my heart was going to burst out of my chest, and I know that my fear was justified. I never told my parents or the parents of the kids I was babysitting, which looking back was probably really stupid. This happened when I was about 14 years old. I just started babysitting for this family in my neighborhood. They had 2 kids, a boy who was about 10 and a girl who was, at the time, 8. They were great kids to babysit. They got along with each other without fighting, and I always did what I asked them to do without complaining. Before I launch into what happened, I'm going to give y'all some background information about this family's house so that y'all can understand why I freaked out so much. The house is situated pretty far back in my neighborhood, on this little side street off of the main road that runs through the neighborhood. The house is in a cul-de-sac, so there's not a lot of traffic on this road at all. Usually, the only people that ever come into the cul-de-sac are the mailman and the people who lived on the other 3 houses that were in the cul-de-sac. The street itself was not very long at all, so there were only 3 houses on each side of the street that weren't in the cul-de-sac. Essentially, despite being in a large neighborhood, the street that this house was situated on was very quiet, and if you didn't live in the neighborhood, you might not even know that the street existed. It was a fall Friday night, pretty sure it was late November, right after Thanksgiving, and I arrived at the house around 6. The kids were already sitting down eating dinner when I got there, and the parents told me that they expected to be home around midnight or so. The parents also made a joke about how the kids had the whole street to themselves, since the other families that lived there were out of town for Thanksgiving. The parents left, the kids finished eating, and we went outside to play in the cul-de-sac. I remember locking the front door and taking the house key outside with me. The kids rode around on their scooters for about an hour. For some reason, I just felt really on edge while the kids were playing outside. I chalked this feeling up to knowing that we were alone on the street since everyone else was out of town. After the kids finished playing outside, we went inside to play Wii in the basement. I remember locking the front door once we were back inside and putting the key on the kitchen counter. I then checked the front door again before I went down to the basement. I was super vigilant about checking the doors because I watched so many scary movies where the babysitter forgets to lock the door and then some crazy murderer gets into the house and blah blah blah. As the kids are playing in the basement, I get that unsettling feeling again. I didn't really feel like we were being watched or anything like that. It's more like when you know that something is gonna pop out in a scary movie and you're just anticipating it on the edge of your seat. The feeling sticks with me the entire time that we are in the basement, but again, I chalk it up to knowing that the entire street is empty. The clock strikes 10, and it's time for the kids to head to bed. We go to the top floor of the house where the kids' bedrooms are. The house is set up so that when you open the front door of the house and come inside, you're standing in the foyer with the stairs to go up to the top floor directly in front of you. If you're standing in the foyer, you can see all the way up the stairs into the bathroom on the top floor. So the kids are in the bathroom brushing their teeth, and we all hear a car pull into their driveway. I figure that it's their parents coming home super early, and I expect to hear the garage door start opening. But that sound never comes. I walk into the girl's bedroom and look out her front window. There's a car running in the driveway, and there's a man in the car. But the headlights are turned off, despite it being 10 p.m. and pitch black dark outside. I figured it was someone who got lost in our neighborhood and was just using the driveway to stop and get their bearings before heading back out on the road. I leave the girl's bedroom and head back into the bathroom where the kids are. Suddenly, I hear a knock on the front door. I turn around and there's a man standing at their door holding a pizza box. There are 2 long windows on either side of their front door, so I do have a clear view of this guy, and I know he has a clear view of us. I immediately get that eerie feeling that I've been feeling all night. I asked both of the kids if they ordered a pizza for some reason, and they both said no. These kids were always very honest and would not lie about something like that, or even order a pizza without asking me, so I knew they were being truthful. Normally, I would have gone downstairs to see what this guy wanted. Maybe he had the wrong house, and I could point him in the right direction or something like that, but at that moment, that little voice in my head was screaming, do not go downstairs. Do not open the door. The guy also didn't look like he worked for any pizza company. Normally, they would be wearing a uniform or something like that, or a hat with a company logo on it or something. The guy just seemed off. He looked like he was in his late 30s, early 40s, and looked super disheveled. His shirt was really wrinkled. His pants were filthy and ripped, and he had this ratty black baseball cap that was pulled down super far so that his eyes were covered. He was also grinning really aggressively, like I thought this guy's teeth would just shatter because of how hard he was pressing them together. At this point, the kids notice him and start asking why he's here. Should we open the door? Etc., etc. I tell them no, and ask that they just go into their rooms and lie down. The boy goes to his room, and I walk the girl into her room and look out the window at the car again. I notice that the car doesn't have one of those pizza box delivery car signs on the top, which all the pizza companies in my town required delivery drivers to have. So now I feel really confident in my initial intuition that this guy is not a legit pizza delivery guy. The girl gets in bed, and I come back out of her room and sit down at the top of the stairs so I can keep an eye out on this guy, whoever he may be. At that moment, I tried to stay really calm so as to not upset the kids, even though I was flipping out on the inside. He's still standing at the door holding a pizza box in one hand, and he's still grinning that teeth-shattering grin. His mouth almost looks too big for his face, even though I can't see his eyes because of the hat. I know that he's dead-ass staring at me. Then, without breaking eye contact, he starts jiggling the door handle pretty aggressively, while still grinning. I silently thank God that I was so psychotic about making sure the front door was locked. He stops jiggling the handle and resumes staring at me. If I was in this situation right now, I probably would have called the police immediately, but being only 14 years old at the time and fairly new to babysitting and the whole thing, I was paralyzed with fear. I felt like if I took my eyes off of him for even one second, when I looked back, he would be standing at the base of the stairs. After about 5 minutes of the stare down, he literally starts walking backwards off of their porch without breaking eye contact with me. Legit, this dude is walking backwards towards his car while still staring at me. I go into the parents' bedroom, which also has a view of the driveway, kneel down in front of the window and peek outside. I'm expecting to see this guy getting into his car. Nope. The guy is nowhere in sight, but the car is still there. So I return to my perch at the top of the stairs, half expecting to see him at the door again, or worse, standing at the bottom of the stairs. But he was nowhere to be seen. After about 20 minutes, I hear a car starting. I run back to the parents' room, kneel in front of the windows again, and notice that the car in the driveway has started, and the guy sitting in the driver's seat still fucking grinning. He also doesn't turn the headlights on. He shifts into reverse and begins slowly backing out of the driveway, grinning the entire time. Right before he drives off, he turns his head and I swear to God, makes direct eye contact with me again. I can't see his eyes because of the hat, but I know that he was looking at me. This is really disturbing to me since he didn't really know where I was in the house. The parents' bedroom is the farthest window to the right if you're looking at the house from the outside. The lights in the parents' bedroom are off, and I'm kneeling down, so really the only part of me that might potentially be visible is the top of my head, my eyes, and my nose. But it's also pitch black outside. He doesn't even have his headlights on, and it's pitch black in the parents' bedroom, so I doubt that I was really visible. He also didn't spend time scanning the windows. His head just literally snapped to where I was. It's like he could sense where I was. After I had time to calm down and collect myself, I started replaying what just happened and came to the following conclusions. This guy was not a pizza delivery guy. He had no uniform, looked and acted like he was possessed or something, and his car was unmarked. Those 20 minutes or so that elapsed between when he walked backwards off the porch to when he got into the car were probably spent walking around the house, checking all the doors, checking all the windows, trying to gain entry inside. he had malicious intents. Maybe he wanted to rob the house. Maybe he wanted to do something more sinister to me or the kids. Either way, this guy was bad news, and I'm glad I trusted the voice in my head. I think he probably found some pizza box and tried to pose as a pizza delivery guy to get me to open the door for him so that he could strike. There are still some parts of the story that are confusing to me. If he really wanted to get inside the house, why didn't he find a rock, a brick, etc., and throw it through a window? I mean, I'm very glad that he didn't, but I thought it was a bit odd that he checked all the doorknobs and then just gave up after he discovered that they were all locked. Maybe he felt like doing something that made a lot of noise would alert me, so that he tried to sneak in, like in a more subtle way to like catch me off my guard or something? Why did he walk backwards off the porch? Was it just to preserve eye contact and thus intimidates me? Or was this dude just fucking insane? Why did I feel so unsettled early on in the evening before the guy even showed up? Was he watching the house and waiting for the kids to go to bed and for me to be off guard before trying to get into the house? Was he watching me the whole time, even while I was on the street? How did he know where to look when he was backing out the driveway? Why was he grinning the entire time? Did he know that our house was the only house on the street that was inhabited at the time? Why did he pick that house? Especially given that it was, in fact, on a very quiet and secluded street, and you would have to drive pretty far back in the neighborhood to even reach the street. Could he have picked the 50 or so other houses that you have to pass to eventually get to that house? The town I live in is pretty upper middle class and has a super low crime rate, and drugs aren't really an issue here. We're also surrounded by other similar upper class areas, so I'm doubtful that this person was on drugs or some crazy vagrant. Of course, I could be wrong. Maybe this dude was just jacked up on drugs. Maybe he was just a vagrant dude. Maybe he was just really a lost pizza delivery man with some unsettling personal quirks, but I'm really doubtful. Whatever he was, I'm glad that I haven't seen him since. And he never returned to that family's house again. And I had enough sense to triple check the front door being locked and listen to the voice in my head. Trust your gut, people. Also, let me know what y'all think was up with this guy. I never told my parents or the parents of the kids, which, as I said, was a stupid idea. I definitely should have told someone about it. If he really was watching their house, they needed to know about it.